about police activity. So let me just unmute him so he can actually present to us.
Okay. Thank you, Tony. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. Awesome. Thanks for having me again. Happy New Year, everyone. This being, your first meeting of the new year, I'd like to just give, a review of how we ended 2020. If anybody was able to read the East Boston Times the last couple of weeks, I believe John Linz did a little story on the crime stats for 2020, and he was pretty much on the money with the big increase that we saw. And I think I might have mentioned this at a couple of meetings, was the car break-ins. We categorize them as, larceny from a motor vehicle. We say it's a big crime of opportunity. People will, especially during the pandemic, when, these people knew that we were having the shutdowns and people were staying in, not using their cars. They would just walk down the street, try door handles, even if a car is in a driveway, they just try door handles. And if they can find an open vehicle, they'll get in there and they'll take any valuables, change, so best we can do is just say that we'll keep the patrols out there and hope that if anyone sees anything suspicious, give us a call. But we highly recommend that everyone lock their vehicles, even if the vehicles are in the driveway. Lock it up, because they'll go right in there and check. And we have responded to, somebody like rummaging through a vehicle, and it turned out that it was the owner of the vehicle. They might have just been cleaning it. So it's a tough one for us. So the best way to do it is just to fortify and lock your vehicles and take all your valuables in with you, or, lock your valuables up in the trunk. But just an example. So in 2019, we had 107 incidents of larceny from a motor vehicle. In 2020, we had 206. So that was, 216. So that was over a 100% increase. And that really drove our statistics up. So we ended 2020 on a 28% increase in our Part 1 crimes. Thankfully, we only had one too many. I don't really like to say only. I definitely don't. But we had one homicide in 2020, and that came late in the year. It came on Christmas Eve in Maverick Square. Our officers made an arrest right away on that. Domestic assaults were up, and that was what we were afraid was going to happen with, pandemic. A lot of people being shut in, being, locked in all the time. So we saw an increase in domestic assault. Let's see. Everything else was maybe just, a couple of incidents here and there, but the larceny from a motor vehicle was really big for us. We have seen some car breaks in the last week or two in the Waldemar area. What was kind of different about the car breaks up there, what they were actually smash and grabs. They actually broke the window or forced their way into the vehicle. So I really can't, say that it was just a case of leaving the vehicle unlocked. So, if a neighbor or you hear anything like that, we did have some suspicious activity up on the hill with somebody going around, trying car doors. We were able to get some video, but it was really bad. It was really grainy. We couldn't ID anyone. But the Waldemar Ave car breaks are a little different for us, because normally we see down this end, it's mostly just people leaving their cars unlocked. So, if you hear glass breaking in the middle of the night, it might be 2, 3 in the morning, give us a call. Let us come out and we'll figure out what it was. Hopefully we can catch someone in the act, or at least identify someone that might be doing some suspicious activity out there. That's it really, as far as any of our Part 1 crimes. Basically that. We saw some suspicious activity up on the hill, up on the Orient Ave area, Montmorency, and then a couple of car breaks down on Waldemar Ave. So, as usual, I don't know if you want to do questions or you want to just do through the chat. It's up to you if you see anything.
look like anyone's asked any questions so
Okay.
far.
Okay. As always, please, email us if you hear anything. Sometimes in my past experience with the community groups, people will contact you and or anyone from, the board and let them know about something that's going on. Please reach out to us. And if there's a question beforehand that I can answer, so I might have that information for you for next month's meeting, I'd be glad to do that. So,
Sure thing.
okay.
We
All
can share
right.
that contact sheet as well
Okay,
in
great.
our follow-up email after this
Great.
meeting.
Yep. And, tomorrow's inauguration day. So, unfortunately, there's been threats of some, I don't want to say violence, but threats of maybe some action in basically all capitals throughout the country. So we'll all be called out. There'll be extra patrol. We don't anticipate any issues here in East Boston, but a lot of us are being called out for, downtown duty tomorrow. So, but we'll be back on Thursday, but we'll be heading downtown for tomorrow. So hopefully everything will be safe. But if any questions come up, just, give me a holler, give me a shout, shoot me an email. All right.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Tony. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Right. So next up on our agenda is just little announcements, general presentations. We've kept this COVID testing efforts in East Boston thing up. It's the same schedule as always at 79 Paris Street at the East Boston Neighborhood Health Center. It's a walkthrough testing site. You don't need symptoms. Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 11:30 a.m., 1 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. And they're also open Saturdays, 10 a.m. to 1:30. And you can check that out on the ebnhc.org website. They have their schedule, and you can actually even schedule an appointment online. So we had a few people that were interested in the Orient Heights Design Review Committee. Gail brought this up. I don't see her in the attendance list today, but the Jeffreys Point Neighborhood Association, they've kind of separated their monthly meetings out from their informational sessions from like developers and attorneys. So they'll have one meeting where they have votes. From what I can tell from their meeting archives, they have their monthly meeting, and if there is a proposal that's up for a vote, they vote for it like as we do, but they don't seem to have any informational sessions during their regular monthly meeting. That's all put over to the design review committee. So we were thinking about having something similar. That way, when attorneys and developers do come to this meeting and present, they have something that's a little more polished and in line with what residents are looking to see, that lines with the neighborhood, and also hopefully keeps up with zoning regulations and doesn't need a substantial amount of variances. So we would be paying attention to like traffic studies, historic preservation, housing policies, the architecture of the proposal when considering these developments. So if we have any questions on this and what it entails, people are welcome to ask in the chat. If anybody who wanted to be a part of the committee also maybe wants to give their 2 cents, that would be great too. We're not quite sure exactly how this will operate as a subcommittee when the meetings will be. This isn't really flushed out yet. It's just something that we wanted to do in an effort to have a bit of a separation from the several informational sessions that precede a vote. And also hopefully make it so when it does come for a vote, it's something that residents are a bit happier to see in the neighborhood. I don't see anything in the chat. Oh, Gail is joining right now. Right, so I see Gail is here now, and I just gave a little informational blurb. Oh, where did she go in the list? There she is. Okay. If you don't mind, Gail, I can unmute you. I did just give a little informational thing on how Jeffrey's point operates with their 2 separate meetings, doing their voting in their monthly meeting, and then having the design review committee that has their own meeting and is more on the informational session and providing feedback. Let's see, I can ask Gail to unmute if she cares to discuss it a bit. Oops. Sorry, I just accidentally muted her immediately. Sorry about that, Gail. I don't know why I did that. There we go. I think we can hear you now.
Okay, I caught a little bit of the end of it while I was trying to get on. I couldn't find the link. God forgive me here. So I heard about the Jeffrey's Point. Yes, they have 2 separate meetings, right?
Mhm.
And design, planning and zoning, whatever, goes off and meets themselves and then reports back, obviously.
Yeah, I was just giving a little bit of background on how they kind of operate. And I mentioned that we aren't really sure how this committee would work as far as when the meetings would be and how it would work with us taking votes during our monthly meeting, our regular monthly meeting, and then having informational sessions in the other like design and zoning review committee.
Well, I would think, if I'm still on, I would think that planning and zoning, say, would do all of their review and then it would move to the other, the formal committee vote.
Okay. I wasn't sure if we wanted to keep like one informational session in this meeting or keep them all in the separate one.
Well, I think it makes sense to vet the project. This is my guess. Vet the project first through this committee. And then they can schedule it to the Orion Heights Neighborhood Committee meeting for presentation and thereafter votes.
Sure. That
Seems to
sounds
me-
great.
Yeah.
We didn't get any questions in the chat, but if anyone does have any questions, feel free to share them in the chat, or you can email us at orientheightsnc@gmail.com. And also, if you want to get involved in this committee, same email address, reach out. We already have several people that are very interested, and it's really awesome to see. And thank you again, Gail. She brought this to my attention and the suggestion.
Oh, I would think that we have to review whether or not we have to amend the bylaw
Mhm.
as in general. And I don't know if we can, do that by simply creating a new committee within the general structure. So I'm not sure how formal that has to be, but
Yeah, I didn't see anything in the bylaws specifically around like the number of presentations like developers, attorneys, and whoever has to give prior to there being a vote. And the only thing I really caught in there was that if there was a subcommittee underneath OHNC that we would have to oversee, I think I, as the chairperson, would have to oversee it.
okay, so there's some comment from Robert DeMeo
Mhm.
Along these lines.
It said appropriate that abutters do a pretty review in committee they have most interest.
Right. I mean, I think it allows,
Review. He meant.
Oh.
I mean, I think folks could attend these meetings as well. I don't think we need to limit it specifically to whoever wants to be, kind of organizing that committee.
well, you have to have some sense of formality. I don't know how it would work if people float in and out. So there could be a standing committee, then people could probably attend as a public committee if they wanted to, I would think, and ask questions at the end. But in some ways, it would certainly have to, engage the abutters on each project too. So there would have to be some, I think, accommodation for that after maybe the design review goes forward. But instead of reinventing the wheel, since Orient Heights, I mean, rather Jeffrey's Point does this already, I think they can certainly guide, and maybe it doesn't have to be as formal as they have it, but I'm not sure. So that's something we can determine. And then I think the basic question is how many people would like to be involved, who would, who can really, pretty much commit to that sort of arrangement. And then obviously, because I think just a couple of meetings, sometimes I don't think these projects are very fully vetted, and it's just like a slam through. And I don't think abutters feel happy not having been fully heard, even though there's an abutters meeting. I think a committee would help the abutters along the way and feel more satisfied that the process was really fully reviewed. I think Mike Russo commented something, I'm not sure, on the subject.
He had asked if he could add a couple of thoughts. Let me see. See if I can unmute him, so you may do that.
Hi, thank you, Tony.
Of course.
How's everybody tonight? Just a couple of thoughts. Gail and I have discussed this informally for a while now. And honestly, this is a response to the changing conditions on the ground in East Boston. I mean, we're in an economic cycle that's seen an unprecedented amount of development. Some of it's good and some of it's very, very bad. And there are a couple of things at play here. One of them is giving voice to abutters' concerns, and another, separate but also important, is giving folks that are interested in these matters and concerned about them. And it's a range of things, from loss of architectural heritage to real issues of displacement within the community for people that rent. I'd like an opportunity to be able to talk to people in an open dialogue and educate them about concepts that maybe they're not familiar with. I spent 15 years working in construction procurement, so I have some special knowledge that I feel might be helpful to some folks in the neighborhood so that they can ask intelligent questions of lawyers, ask intelligent questions of developers, and asking intelligent questions about the city. Now, we have this iPod process that's been going forward for now over a year. And I think that's done a lot to answer people's questions and concerns and make them feel a little bit better that somebody has their hand on the switch to stop some things that folks are concerned about in the neighborhood, or at least have some structured redress of grievance. But I feel at the community organization level, we should have these conversations. Now, to answer Mr. DeMayo's concerns, I don't think that these types of meetings are going to take place in secret. They're going to be part of the meeting that we're part of right now. And Gail, I think that you'll agree we want to conduct this sort of thing with all interested parties and do so in a highly transparent way. People have legitimate concerns about, backroom conversations and off the record conversations. That's not at all what I'm interested in participating in at all. And I think that I speak for anybody else that's spoken up about wanting to participate in this when I say that. So that's all I have. I'm here to help.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year. So we did get questions around these meetings being separate from the OHNC monthly ones. And I believe they would be, just so we don't end up with like a 4-hour long meeting where we go, in depth into zoning and architecture and whatnot. But they would be, open for folks to join, especially, of course, abutters. Let's see if we have any. Let's see, Ann DeVito said, "Well said, Mike. I've lived here for 50 plus years and have seen our city change a lot, and not in a good way. The builders and lawyers get richer and the residents get congestion in return." You have a couple people, see, Robert DeMayo said, "Agree fully." Gail, agree, Mike. And Joanne said, "Well said." I'm just going to share the sign-in sheet again because I did notice that a couple people had missed being able to sign in there. Oh, see what's going on here. Marianne looks to be sharing her screen. Let me stop that real quick. So I guess we can flesh out when these meetings will be, and we'll pass that information along to everybody via the same email blast, post on Facebook, and post it on our website, and let everyone know how we'll be moving forward. If we do need to amend the bylaws, we'll make sure that that is presented prior to doing so that we have an agreement from everybody moving forward. But it doesn't look like we have any additional questions. So in that case, we will be moving on to our first. Well, Gail said we need to take submissions from folks who are interested, which we can do at the OHNC@gmail.com email address. Also, with our email blasts, you should be able to reply to that and it will go directly to our email if you are interested. So let's see. Our first development presentation is for 6-8 St. Andrew Road. It's renovation of an existing rear deck. Scope includes extending the deck to the upper floor, addition of an egress stair, and extension of the first floor portion of deck. Renovation of rear basement access stair / door also included, which I believe is Drago and Toscano. So let me unmute you so you can present.
Thanks, Tony. Appreciate that. Hi, everyone. My name is John Haskell. I'm with Drago and Toscano. I'll be presenting tonight's presentation. I have a brief one. Would you like me to share my screen, Tony?
Go for it.
Okay, give me 1 second. Can everybody see that okay? Great. So we have a brief presentation for you tonight. I will get this into full screen mode and happy to take any questions at the end. As I mentioned, my name is Attorney John Haskell, Drago and Toscano, on behalf of the homeowner, Mr. Hamze. With me tonight, I have Timothy Sheehan, who prepared the architectural floor plans for this proposal. So our proposal, as Tony mentioned, is we are reconfiguring and renovating / extending the existing deck and porch and creating a new egress stair for all 3 floors. We're also going to renovate the rear basement access stair and door. Our lot size is just under 4,500 square feet in our zoning district. It's a 2F 4,000. To give you a bit of context, this is the property's locus located on St. Andrews Street, highlighted in orange, and then an aerial view of the property. To briefly go over our zoning analysis, we are seeking a few variances tonight due to the size and scope of the addition to the rear access stairs, porch, and decks. We are seeking a variance for the side yard setback at 6.2 on the right. Pre-existing is a 15-foot setback. And then the rear yard would be seeking a variance at 11.9 feet. And we do have a shallow lot exception here of 35 feet. Required normally in this district is 40 feet. Finally, we were sided with the East Boston iPod overlay. However, because this does not deal with a living space, we believe this might be an error, so we will be speaking to the zoning board about it. To give you a bit of context, the site, this is the existing conditions at 6-8 St. Andrew Road. As you can see, the pre-existing side yard setback is a 15-foot setback. And Tim, if you're on the call tonight and you want to go over the floor plans, I'd be happy to pass it off to you. But if not, I can take it from here.
I don't believe I see a Tim in the participants list.
Okay, I'm happy to go over them. The existing floor plans include 2 rear porches on the structure. The existing floor plan and mapping of the building will not change with the exception of the new decks and egress stairs. So really the only change to the exterior of the building will be what I'm about to go over. As proposed, we would be extending the deck to the side of the structure, as you can see here, thus triggering the side yard setback and rear yard setback. Again, as I proposed, we would have a side yard setback of 6.2 on the right side, as well as a rear yard setback of 11 feet. To briefly go over the floor plans, as I mentioned, we will have a new rear access stair and door from the basement to the first floor. And on the first floor, we'll have a rear/side deck at approximately 23 feet by 20 feet long, as well as the addition of a new egress staircase at about 14 feet by 7 feet long. Moving up the structure, the second floor will have a porch at about 11 feet by 7 feet long, as well as a new egress stair and canopy over that proposed basement staircase. And then the third floor will be extending that deck up a floor, as there is no pre-existing deck. So with that, they will have a small porch on the third floor at about 5 feet by 7 feet long, as well as the egress stair and porch area. The proposed elevations really give you the best view of what we're proposing here. As you can see, those new egress stairs will carry up the length of the building from the first floor to the third floor. And the side yard there you see will be that new porch for the first floor unit. With that, I'm happy to take any questions. And I know that was quick, so I can go over any slides if there's any questions.
Doesn't look like we've gotten any questions yet in the chat.
Okay, well, this is our first presentation before Orient Heights. We'll be coming back for a vote next month. We did hold an abutters meeting last week that was only attended by the representative of the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. So we'll be happy to present this again next month.
Karen asked, is the basement for an apartment?
No, so that will be, if I can quickly go back in the presentation, I can show you, that will literally just be pre-existing storage space. This is really just upgrading the access stair as well as the doorway. And again, this is all sort of for safety as well as to get some additional open air space. The existing porches are in rough shape, so this is really just renovating what's there while also extending it just slightly.
Okay, we've got another question from Patricia Powers asking how the abutters feel. I did notice that Joe Ruggiero had said they are great neighbors and wish them nothing but the best.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate that. Again, as I mentioned, we did have an abutters meeting, I believe it was last Tuesday, with Lena Tremelli from the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. She was the only attendee. It was a brief meeting, but we did share the plans with the Mayor's Office, and that's why we're here tonight.
All right, doesn't look like we have any more questions. If any crop up, I can pass them along to you.
Please do. I appreciate that. With that, thank you all for your time, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you. Right, next up for another informational presentation is 90 Ashley Street. This was presented last month by Derek Small. It's a proposal to erect a two-family dwelling on a vacant lot. So let me just unmute you, Derek, so you can present.
Yes, thank you, Tony. Good evening, everyone. Attorney Derek Small for the petitioner, Robert DeLeo, and his wife, Deb DeLeo. We're here again to have a discussion with regard to our proposal to erect a two-family dwelling on a vacant lot that the DeLeos own and have owned for a number of years. The DeLeos are lifelong residents of East Boston and seek to remain in East Boston. So our proposal is to erect a two-family dwelling with 2 parking spaces. Our zoning sub-district is a 2F4000. We have a lot size of 4,410 square feet. Tony, if you can, if you allow me to share my screen.
You should be able to.
these are the floor plans, if everybody can see my screen. That we are presenting. So in the basement, there's no living space in the basement. The basement is strictly for storage.
Doesn't look like you're sharing yet.
Okay. That's sharing now.
It says you started. Yep, now I can see it.
Okay.
Thank-
Again, the basement plan is for just for storage. The first level, as I said, is a two-family duplex. You have kitchen area, you have the living room, and the dining area on the first level. The second level will consist of 2 bedrooms, 1 bath. Both units, 2 bedrooms, 1 bath. The square footage of the units are 1,747 square feet. And again, there's no living space in the attic, as only the attic will contain the mechanicals. With regard to zoning violations, we have a violation of the FAR. The FAR requirement in this zone is 0.8. We are proposing a FAR of 1.2. The rear yard setback is 40 feet. We have 24 feet. Again, we are providing 2 off-street parking spaces. Lot frontage, the width of the lot, the requirement is 40 feet. We have approximately 32 feet. Now I'm going to show you a Google image from above. This is the lot that we're talking about. Again, it's currently vacant. It's 4,400 square feet that Mr. Robert DeLeo and his wife Deb own. They live here at 80 Ashley Street. This is their lot, the site of the proposed 2-family dwelling. I know last time there was some concern with Mr. Coviello, who lives here, with regard to the side yard setback. The side yard setback requirement in this zone is 7 feet. We are proposing 5. On this side of the building, on this side of the lot, you will see Mr. Coviello has a 12-foot driveway separating the 2 properties. And then within our property, we're going to be, the body of the dwelling will be inserted 5 feet inside of that. So there'll be a total of 17 feet between Mr. Coviello's property and the proposed structure.
It looks like the image that you're trying to share. It's just coming up as a gray square right now.
Okay, I don't know why that is, but you cannot see it on your screen.
No, it's a gray square that popped up. You could try stopping sharing and then sharing again and see if it'll display everything. Hey, you may have just shared your browser and not the other application that opened that image. There we go.
Back them up.
Yep, now we can see it.
Okay, so again, this is the Google Earth image of the property. Again, this is the site. The DeLeos own this property here at 80 Ashley. The proposed site is here at 90. Again, they've owned the lot for several years and seek to remain and keep their family remaining in East Boston. Again, we are seeking a side yard setback relief. Requirement is 7 feet. We're proposing 5. Again, here is Mr. Coviello's property. Again, I know he had an issue with the 5-foot setback, but on this side of the property, he has a 12-foot driveway. And again, proposed building would be 5 foot, an additional 5 feet inside the lot for a total of approximately 17 feet between the properties. In addition, we are proposing landscaping and a fence along this side of the property, along with some landscaping of arborvitae trees along that side of the property. Again, I know Mr. Coviello was concerned about the side yard setback. Again, I think it's pretty reasonable that, you know, his 12-foot driveway and an additional 5 feet in for a total of 17 feet within the side yard setback between the two properties. I'll stop it there because, like I said, we have been here before. People are familiar with the site. We'll open it up to questions and answers. And the owner of the property, Robert DeLeo, is on the line.
Ann DeVito said, I don't understand how an abutter's use of their land allows you to build outside of your allowed variance.
We're not building outside of our lot. This is our lot here. Everything that we're talking about is within our lot here.
She followed it up with 5 feet versus 7 feet.
Yes, so the side yard requirement for a side yard setback is 7 feet in the zoning code. We're proposing 5, which means from here, from the lot line inside, the proposed structure will be 5 feet within that side yard setback.
Giuseppe Coviello said whether my abutting property was a vacant lot or the current residence that it is, which conforms to its own side setback requirement, the layout of my abutting property should not grant a special privilege to the proposed development that allows it to violate its own required setback requirement.
That's why we go to the zoning board of appeals. Yep, we understand.
Liliana Isaac Snyder said, where is the parking?
The parking is on the left side. We're proposing parking on the left side, halfway in the front of the building.
I don't see any
But
other.
we are proposing 2 off-street side parking spaces.
I don't see any other questions coming in. If we do have any additional ones, I can send them over to you. If you
Yeah,
don't.
not a problem. Feel free to contact me or the owner of the property, Robert DeLeo. He's on the line as well. Like I said, I'm available. Tony, you have my information, my email, and my my cell phone. If anyone has any questions, feel free to contact us. Not a problem.
Robert DeMeo just said elevation. Ooh, what? Elevation of Coviello's windows with respect to 90. Which I think means what would he be able to see, I suppose, out of his windows with respect to this new property?
I don't have a view of his window. I don't know what he would be looking at. But as I said, we plan to do landscaping. We're planning to put up the trees on that side as well.
Okay, Giuseppe said a 2-family structure conforming to the 7-foot side setback requirement set forth in Article 53 could be built on this property, but instead the current plan unnecessarily seeks to invade the required side setback from my property. Each foot that the structure needlessly encroaches upon the required side setback area is 1 less foot of privacy, 1 more foot of density, and a further reduction in view.
Understood. We acknowledge that when we hear his concern, as I said, there's 12-foot driveway and then another 5 feet in. So there is ample room between the properties. We think it's very reasonable. And with the, as I said, with the addition of the landscape.
It doesn't look like we have any additional feedback or questions. If we do
All
get
right.
any more, we'll definitely reach out. And then,
Oh, yeah. Tony, if anything comes up, do not hesitate to call me. I want to thank everybody for their time this evening. Greatly appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you all soon.
thank you.
All right. Have a good night.
You too. Let me see. So we do have a property that is supposed to be up for a vote this evening, which is 1209 Bennington Street. However, I don't believe Richard Lins has gotten a chance to join this meeting yet. He had the peers pack meeting this evening that I believe was supposed to be over by 7:30. However, we're unprecedentedly early this evening and with all of the presentations and everything. Not sure how we want to, oh, let's see. Lorene said I just texted him to see how long he will be. Should be on shortly. Thank you, Lorene. So I suppose now we'll kill some time here. See, is there any of the presentations we've had so far people have additional feedback on? Let's see. Oh, I will post the sign-in sheet again. Let's see. In case anybody hasn't got any chance to sign in. Just copy paste that back in the chat. See, Robert DeMeo is saying defer 51 people are here and ready. Yeah, give him a couple moments, and then if he's held up with the peers pack, we should be able to get it done at the next meeting. So next month we actually have another Tuesday meeting because the third Monday is a holiday again. So we will be holding the February meeting on Tuesday, February 16th. Let's see. Yeah, I'll give it another minute and then let's see. Oh, Maria Zola said, I'm a direct abutter and oppose building a 4-story, 7-unit building from a 2-family house. So I believe that's 1209 Bennington. That proposal is to raise existing building and erect 4-story, 7-unit residential dwelling with parking for 5 vehicles. Let's see. Gail said, I would like to know what next steps will we need to navigate before we begin with this committee. I can organize an informal meeting for everybody that's interested in that committee, and then we can probably present that at the next meeting, what we come up with as far as how we'll operate. It looks like Joe has raised his hand. Me unmute you. Well, it's the first time I've ever seen anybody use that feature.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, the last time we changed the bylaws, we presented it at one meeting and then voted on it the next meeting. That was like one of the last things that we did when I was still president. So I would think that would be the process still.
Yeah, we can do that. We can have this like informal meeting to flesh out exactly what the subcommittee will be doing, present it in February, and then perhaps in March, everyone can vote. If that sounds good. Right, it's already been several minutes here. Let's see, he is coming. He had a conflict to help student. Oh, if we can start with the architect, I mean, that works for me, Lorene. So who is the architect on this? Okay, let's see. Fixing this. All right, Lorene, you should be all set.
Can you also allow me, do I need permission to share my screen? Because I can put up.
You can share.
Okay, give me a second. Okay, can everyone see the screen?
Yep.
Okay, let me just get into the full screen. So just real quickly, this is the,
Sorry, the screen's all black now. I could see
Oh.
it before you went full screen.
sharing is paused. Bring your shared window to the front. Can you see it now?
Yep. Oh, and it went black again as soon as you went to full
Okay,
screen.
I'm just gonna leave it this way for right now because it's not letting me. Okay. So as we discussed, this is the second meeting for this. We also had an abutters meeting on this. Richard should be over to jump in, but I'll at least start it with the architect. With me on the call is Tria Larea, who is with Joy Street Design. She's the project architect on this, as well as Ricky and Josh Crespo. They are the developers of this property. So the overview is they're planning on demolishing the existing two-family dwelling, which is on a 5,000 square foot lot, and construct a 4-story, 7-unit residential dwelling with 5 parking spaces. The units range in size from 4 2-bedrooms and 3 3-bedrooms, and they're intended for home ownership. So just a quick overview of the site. The red dot is the existing location. And again, just a different bird's eye view of the area. I'm sure most people are pretty familiar with this area of Bennington Street. It's the last end of Bennington Street going towards Revere. And just another view showing some of the surrounding buildings in the area. And again. And this is the street view. Sorry, the best we could do, but there's a tree in front of the building. And again. This is the BPDA abstract. So again, the property is at 1209 Bennington Street in a 2F5000 area. The red highlights the existing lot and the building that's on it. And this is the proposed site plan of where the building will sit. I can have Tria walk through the layouts of the units. So I'll have Tria jump in.
Good evening. So the proposal is for 7 units. There'll be 2 units on each floor. The first floor sits at grade because this is new construction and the first floor units will be accessible. So you enter at grade. There's proposed 5 parking spots in the rear, 2 compact spaces, which are 7 by 18 feet, and the others are 8.5 by 20 feet. Those total 3, so 2 compact, 3 full size. You enter in the front, you have a foyer, you have your 2-bedroom units on the first floor with open concept. The second floor units 3 and 4 are slightly larger, ranging in size from 910 square feet to 1080 square feet. On this floor, you have a 2-bedroom and a 3-bedroom. On the third floor, you have another 3-bedroom and a 2-bedroom. And then the fourth floor is a single unit. It's the largest, 1,600 square feet, a 3-bedroom, and it's in the mansard of the building, as you'll see from the elevation from the street and the rendering. And it's pulled back from the rear over 10 feet from the back, so it doesn't take up a full floor plate. But it's, sized spaciously. These are intended to be family style units. We hear a lot of feedback from the neighborhood about, single bedroom units, 2-bedrooms. So, the owner really wanted to do something a little bit more spacious. And that's why we are putting in as many 3-bedrooms as we can. So your elevation, your front elevation on the right-hand side shows we have angled bay windows consistent with the typology on the street with a mansard roof. We're trying to do something a little bit more contemporary with the materials, be clapboard, fiber cement siding or something similar, but have sort of more modern detailing in the bay windows, as you'll see when we look at the rendering. At the rear, you have rear balconies on the 2nd and 3rd floor, and also the top floor, which is again pulled back from the cornice in excess of 10 feet to the far right, the upper far right. There's a roof deck, not a roof deck on top of the roof, but a deck on that 4th story as well. What you're looking at the street level is an enclosed parking space, enclosed on one side, meaning there's a screen, you can see it from the back, and those 2 cars there, which are the compact cars, are sort of tucked in underneath the structure. Side elevation, this is from the west side of the building. We've got some Juliet balconies on the sides, but aside from that, you can see how the top floor is pulled back from the rear. And this is the eastern side elevation. You'll see at the bottom right-hand corner the screen where we're proposing, something like a cedar slat screen to conceal the cars from view. And this is our rendering from the street. So we're proposing some landscaping, some, emphasis on the bay windows, a little bit more contemporary of a window type, but really trying to keep the language of the architecture on the street in this building. I'll let you take it from here, Lorraine.
Richard, are you on yet by chance?
I don't believe he's joined yet.
Okay, I'll quickly run through these. So we are proposing 7 units in this district. 2 units would be allowed, so we would be requesting a variance for that. The minimum lot size, we're proposing 5,000 and the allowed is 5,000. So we would not be requesting a variance for that as we comply with the minimum lot size. We also comply with the minimum lot width and frontage at 50 feet. And side yard, we would be requesting a variance. We're at 4.3 and 10.5 feet. And the allowed would be 10 feet in this. So the difference of that is 5.7 feet. For floor area ratio, that would be another variance that we would be seeking. We're proposing 1.48 and the allowed in this district is 0.6 for a difference of 1.28. We would be also requesting a height variance. We're at 4 stories, 41 feet, and allowed in this district is 2.5 stories, 35 feet. We comply with the open space minimum, and we would be requesting a variance for parking. We are proposing 5. The allowed required is 9. So that would be a difference of 4 spaces. So where we are in the community process, we've already submitted our long form to the city. We've obtained what's called the refusal letter, which outlines the variances requested. We've submitted our petition to the Board of Appeal, and right now we're completing the community process. We've held an abutters meeting just this past month, and we've already been in front of the Orion Heights Neighborhood Association last month as well. So this would be our second meeting with the Orion Heights Neighborhood Association, and we'd be requesting a vote today. Shortly after the vote, a hearing would be scheduled before the ZBA. That is strictly dependent on the ZBA schedule. We would anticipate, just the way they've been doing things, sometime in the winter or spring of this year. This project would be subject to BPDA design review, meaning that the BPDA would be able to have recommendations on the design of the project. With permit issuing, we would think sometime in the summer of 2021. Again, all tentative depending on the scheduling of everything, with completion of construction sometime in the spring of 2022. So with that, we can take any questions and discussion. And this is, again, is the rendering. And I'll just confirm to see if, Richard, are you on yet?
He is here.
Okay.
See, I'm not sure if the chat will have populated for him, so I can read out some of the questions that we've got. Oh, let's see. So we have, why is someone other than the owner seeking variance? That's from Larry Zola. And he also had said, see, is that for the proposed owner or the current owner? Latest deed change is from 1/23/2020. See, just see if Rich is able to unmute. I'm not sure what's going on with Rich's audio, but I've given him the ability to unmute. He has not yet. Would you like to field some of these questions, Lorraine, and just in case Rich is having some problems with his mic or something?
Sure. Okay, he should be all set.
Yeah, I've given him the ability to unmute. He just hasn't yet, so I'm not sure.
Okay, can you repeat? I think it, would you say it was Larry's question?
Yep, he said, why is someone other than the owner seeking variance? And then followed that up with, is that for the proposed owner or the current owner? Latest deed change is from 1/23/2020.
So this frequently happens within the city that, you know, you have a property under agreement and you go forward with some of the permitting requirements. That's typically what happens.
Okay, we also have a question from Mary Ann D, who said, are there any other 4-story units in that area?
I believe there are a number of 4 stories that are proposed. I know there is a proposed building going up at 1181 Bennington. I believe that was already approved, so the area is changing. There is a 4-story, I believe, a little bit further down the street as well on Bennington Street, very close to this property.
Maria Zola said, this structure dwarfs the building next to it. Why not just 3 stories? Let's see. And DeVito said the proposed project will look very out of place. Larry Monato said these are the same variances as the last meeting, so no feedback from the last meeting was taken into consideration. Mary Ann said too tall. And DeVito said it's another variance request that hurts its abutters. Larry Monato asked, what did the abutters say about this?
Sorry about that. I was muted and couldn't get myself unmuted for a second. We had a rather, it was a rather uneventful abutters meeting. Some of the abutters had a few questions just regarding setbacks and things of that nature, and different things that they would like to see. I know the next door neighbor at one point asked about his fence, and there was some discussion on that as well. So that's where the abutters were on that. And the abutters were all notified of this meeting as well.
Okay, Marianne also said from 2 to 7 units, why not 3?
The owners, this is what they've chosen to go forward with. It is a property that is very unique to the neighborhood, and that is directly across the street from Suffolk Downs train station and within walking distance of Orient Heights. So it makes it a very attractive location for people to live, and they believe that this is the best fit for the project.
Okay, let's see. Rich said, keep with the character. Larry Venezia wants to talk about parking. Let me see. I don't see any follow-up questions around parking.
So we are proposing parking on this site. There's five parking spaces. And again, as mentioned, directly across the street from Suffolk Downs train station and within walking distance of Orient Heights. It's always the topic of conversation with any area of the city, how many parking spaces works in each neighborhood, and whether or not people are even going to bring cars to a property such as this. I don't think I need to keep belaboring the issue. Everyone has a different view on it, whether people purchase these with the intentions of not owning a vehicle because they're across the street, or whether or not people believe that they're going to come in with more cars. But we are proposing at least 5 parking spaces, which we think is more than suitable for a property so close to the MBTA.
Okay, Joanne said 4 stories is not the norm for this neighborhood. Rich mentioned again, we should keep up with the character of the neighborhood.
Tria, could you have a little bit of discussion regarding the design and how you try to maintain the character?
Hi, yes. So we came into this project just sort of doing what we typically do, which is to photograph what's going on the street. You know, our office presents in front of Orient Heights pretty often, and a lot of what we hear, it has to do with scale and has to do with you know, the architectural typology or the style. And we try really hard to sort of pay homage to the typical housing that's in the neighborhood. We love bay windows, we love mansards, we see a lot of them. You know, this particular house was a gable roof style, and we tried to make a style like that work, but it was really tricky with the eaves, and it wasn't really consistent with getting the 3-bedroom counts that you know, we were aiming for. So, you know, we want to make contemporary style housing, but we really feel it's very important to take elements that exist in the neighborhood, and rather than do something hyper modern where it's more out of place, we try and be respectful to what's going on around it. I would like to point out that, you know, we're not looking at the elevation right now, we're looking at the rendering, but a lot of the homes on this street have elevated first floors with stoops, and where we're not doing that here, you know, we have 4 stories, but it's not a full 2 stories higher than the neighbor to the right that we're looking at in the photo, because we're entering our units at grade. So if you look at the, and I apologize, this is kind of small and my eyes are really bad. So our roof height is 41 feet as we're proposing. And if you go back to the, I believe 35 is the zoning
Correct.
height limit, is that right?
Yes.
So we're you know, we're in excess of 6 feet. I'm seeing some chats in the upper right-hand corner. So that's where we are. We're at 4 stories. We're entering at grade, so we're resting a little bit lower than what is typically on the street with the elevated first floors. And we're we're looking to do something a little bit more traditional in style with the larger cornice and the mansards and the bay windows. So.
We do have some people in the chat that are abutters or just mentioning that abutters oppose this due to all of the variances. We have some folks that are saying if you took it down a floor, it'd be more compliant with zoning relief, or that if it was, 2 or 3 units as opposed to the 7, that would be better. Let's see. So Robert DeMeo said a prerequisite by zoning board for a variance is demonstrable hardship. What is the hardship for each variance?
Hi, Robert. Again, I think you've had this discussion with Richard at the last meeting. That is for the zoning board to decide, and that is a discussion at the zoning board at the time for the Board of Appeal. Typically at community meetings, we don't sit and demonstrate each and every hardship. We show the proposal, ask for some input, and that's where we are right now.
Okay. Larry Venezia said the problem is the size of the parking spaces.
Tria, can you discuss the size of the parking spaces?
Unmute. Yes. So we have 3 standard size parking spaces and 2 compact spaces. Compact basically fits a sedan. Okay. It's not suitable for an SUV. You put SUVs in traditional 8.5 by 20 feet parking spaces. We have 2 compact spaces. And 3 standard size ones. And I know that the question came up at the abutters meeting about whether or not there was adequate space in the back for maneuverability. And I'd like to follow up on that to say that there is. So in order to make a 3-point turn, you need, I believe it's 10 by 20 feet. This is a 50-foot wide lot. So we have approximately 20 by 25 feet, more than ample space to do a 3-point turn out of the back. I don't know if there are any other questions concerning parking, but that's what I can tell you about the maneuverability.
Let me see. Someone did mention the parking spaces are for compact cars. Another person asked about how wide the compact parking spaces are. I believe that it's 20 feet by 25 feet covers that. Okay. Let's see. We did have another question around, Liliana Isaac Snyder asked, is the present house occupied?
I don't know I believe the present house is occupied by the owners, but I don't want to give you the wrong information on that. So.
Okay, Larry Zola did say it is occupied. See. Mike Russo said, abutter issues aside, do people understand the socioeconomic impact of this kind of scorched earth development? And Larry Monato mentioned demonstrating hardships while not required would be a sign of good faith. John and Ginny Bertulli are asking, because I had mentioned that the space for the parking was 20 feet by 25 feet. And they asked, is that for 2 compact cars? I believe that's 5. That'd be within that spot.
Let me go back to the site plan. And Tria, can you speak to that? We have a total of 5 parking spaces, 2 of which are compact and 3, I believe, are standard. Correct, Tria?
That's correct.
Richard replied there and said compact is 7 feet by 18 feet. Let's see, a lot of the other feedback, let's see, is around SUVs not fitting when the turn radius is too small. So now they have SUVs that are parking on the street. Larry Venezia said parking space should be 9 feet by 18 feet with a 24-foot radius. Oh, yep, I'll unmute you, Lorene. Let's see. Oh, you're up there. Should be all set now.
Sorry, every time I mute myself, it doesn't allow me to unmute myself.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
Right.
Are there any further questions about the design or the variances or any of the setbacks or anything like that that we're proposing?
See, we have another comment around the parking space.
Okay.
So the width of a Toyota Corolla Impreza and Volkswagen Golf are about 5.8 feet, which leaves you about 1.2 feet to open the door.
These types of parking proposals are done day in and day out. Tria has designed multiple buildings with similar parking, even I would dare say smaller spaces and smaller areas to maneuver turns and things like that. So I would assume, Tria, you're very confident in the maneuverability and the width and the room of all of these parking spaces. Again, these are all vetted too. The city's transportation department weighs in on this as well. But we're confident that any car can fit into those spaces, you know, as mentioned, maybe not an SUV, but a sedan can get into those spots.
Okay. I'm not sure what this person's name is. They just signed in as Barnes Ave, but they mentioned that your previous statement about the abutters meeting being uneventful might be a misinterpretation or a falsehood. Gail said, my question is, will there be a removal of rear yard to accommodate parking, hence a variance on rear yard?
I can go back to the variances, Gail, for you. And when I don't mean to give any misinterpretation regarding the abutters meeting, I'm just stating that everything that we're talking about here was also discussed at the abutters meeting. It was the same exact proposal. Some of the same concerns were brought up. Some of those concerns were listened to and discussed offhand, and this is where we are now. So Gail, you asked about the rear yard, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
We did have some comments around the high water table being the reasoning for no elevated first story, I believe it was.
Tria, I can have you discuss the water table and the flood area.
Yeah,
from the
we're
rear
not
yard.
proposing a basement here. This property is not in the flood zone. And the reason why we're entering the units at grade has to do with handicap accessibility requirements for new construction. So that's all I can say about that.
Okay, Robert DeMeo said, what were the project changes resulting from the abutters meeting?
We didn't make any project changes currently. This is the project that we are seeking a vote on. We took everything under advisement and we'll go from there. The rear yard setback, I think, was the question that Gail had, and we're at 29.2. The parking spaces are in the rear.
Okay, Mike Russo also asked about what modifications were made as a result, but it doesn't sound like any were. So, see, Patty said, why didn't you address the abutters' concerns as you promised you would do?
I believe there was a question about the maneuverability, which is one of the concerns that we were, that was brought up. So we're discussing that. And here we are today, again, with the proposal.
Lorraine, I
Oh, you're on, Richard?
apologize. Yeah, I apologize for not being on. I was in another meeting that was supposed to end earlier, and I thought this one would run a little later. So my apologies for not being on earlier. I understand that there's already been a presentation made. I know that we made an initial presentation on this and had an abutters presentation as well. Attorney Scatino did not handle the abutters presentation. I did. We did hear from direct abutters, both to the right of this property as well as to the rear. I did have an opportunity to speak to Mr. D'Amelio this afternoon. There are two issues he's concerned with. Both of those I've confirmed I will work with him on. And I understand the other comments that we heard this evening as well. I was trying to monitor the chat. I did see some questions about parking. A parking space for a compact vehicle is 7 by 18. That's per the Boston zoning code. A full-size space is 8.5 by 20. There is sufficient radius for maneuverability for the vehicles that are being proposed on this site. There will be additional landscape buffering as well that will be added. So those are some of the items that we certainly covered as part of the abutters meeting. I do recognize that there were concerns raised and things that we are in the process of looking to address. We typically look to conclude the civic association process, which is tonight's meeting. And if we elect to make additional changes or modifications, we certainly will reach back out to the direct abutters and hold a follow-up abutters meeting as well.
We did have another question come in from Liliana Snyder, asking if you could please explain the requirement of accessibility on new construction.
When you say accessibility, Ms. Snyder, I assume you're talking about accessibility for persons with disabilities or handicaps, correct?
Yep.
Okay, so this particular building would have accessible units at the ground level. I know I'm looking at the slide. I assume everybody else can see that. The main entranceway is located at grade, and this is a good example where you can see the building immediately to the right. You have 3 or 4 steps that go up to sort of a vestibule before you get into the unit. Obviously, the building to the right was built a lot longer ago than the building we're proposing, and that's one of the reasons why you see most new buildings, even if they have some old features to them, all have this entryway at the lower level where the door is at the sidewalk. The purpose for that is that these would be considered group 2 units or adaptable units for purposes of allowing persons with disabilities to access the unit without much impediment. So there is no step that goes up to this level. The entranceways for these units at the lower level are at grade. So somebody with a wheelchair or someone with some type of walking disability would not have to use stairs to get into their unit. So this building, any building that we propose that's 3 or more units would need to require the accessibility requirements.
Okay, Larry Zola did ask what were the new concerns. I'm not sure.
So
What
The
is
new
it?
concerns I heard from Mr. D'Amelio today involved the extent of the shadow on his property. I did explain to Mr. D'Amelio, and I will provide this to him directly, and if Mr. Zola wants a copy as well, we'll get a shadow analysis to show what the impact of shadow would be from this building. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the sun would rise to the rear of this property. Am I oriented correctly here? Anybody? And the sun sets more towards the, if I'm at the front, looking out from the front of the property to the left. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Yeah, so with respect to shadow impact for Mr. D'Amelio specifically, who's directly behind the property, you know, and Larry, I do see your comment that the whole thing is deceiving. I apologize that you feel that way. We're making a presentation based upon what the plans are from the architect. So whether or not it's deceiving or not is your opinion, but I certainly am trying to express what the project is. So with respect to the impact to shadow, if we could jump back to the maybe the overview slide, if that's possible, showing the bird's eye view of the property. One more, there we go. So my understand, oh, go to the next slide. No, one more. There we go. So my understanding is the sun would rise to the rear portion of this property and then set towards, if I'm looking at the screen here, towards the right side of my screen. If that were the case, the impact from any shadow on this proposed site to Mr. D'Amelio's property would be minimal, as the shadow would be casting back towards our property in the morning, and then late afternoon would be limited to pretty much the left corner of our property and the back corner of the adjoining property. There are existing trees on the property right now. The very large tree, I think Mr. Zola pointed out at the abutters meeting, he would like to see removed. You know, we've agreed that we will do that in conjunction with this project. That garage at the back of the property as well would be removed. And I believe Mr. D'Amelio indicated he was concerned about the location of the existing fence. We would also relocate that fence to within our property boundary. I believe he believes it's over the boundary. So that's something we obviously would cooperate with Mr. D'Amelio on in getting that addressed.
It doesn't look like we have any additional questions. Patty's asking if we are voting on this tonight, and we are.
Larry, thank you for your comments. You know, but the fact that we're here to make a proposal and to talk a little bit about what the project looks like, you know, saying that we're wrecking the neighborhood really doesn't, you know, lend itself to a productive discussion. I've had a conversation with Mr. D'Amelio. He has very specific concerns. I'm happy to work with him, but if you want to encourage him not to quote unquote knuckle, then maybe we won't have to work with him. It's your call.
Right. We did hit another comment around not obeying variances.
This a lot at meetings. It's not about whether we're obeying variances or the zoning code. The zoning code in East Boston that's in effect right now was written in 1993. A lot has changed since 1993 in the city of Boston, not to mention with respect to how people live, how buildings are built, how people orient their properties. I mean, a lot has changed since 1993. And so much so that we're actually in the process of rezoning the entire neighborhood, which is an ongoing process of the Boston Planning and Development Agency. Certainly, you know, there is a process in place for any project that's being proposed in the city that requires relief. You should be comforted by the fact that most projects in the city of Boston require some type of zoning relief. And that's not by accident, that's by design, so that there is this input that the community gets on the process. Boston has a very unique way of handling their zoning. Unlike any other city in town, which it really is unlike any other city in town, both the law and the way it approaches it. The community input process is something I don't see anywhere else really outside of the city of Boston. So the fact that we do require relief under the code is a way to ensure that you have a say and a voice in the process, or at least to make sure that your voice is heard. And in this case, going to an abutters meeting in a civic association 3, maybe 4 times is something that, again, we don't see outside of the city of Boston at all. And I can assure you that these meetings do have some results that are productive. There are many projects I've worked on where abutters make suggestions or recommendations or things that we want to hear or that they want to see, and we want to hear obviously from them, and we're able to incorporate that. So telling people not to knuckle or to ignore us, that we're wrecking the neighborhood, is really not the point of these meetings. The point of these meetings is to hear the concerns and try to address those, rather than just going forward with a project that may or may not work for the neighborhood. We don't know that unless we hear from you. Yes, Gail, we know the cities abuse the zoning codes. We understand that. We understand that's your opinion, Gail.
We did get a comment around all of the changes and congestion being frustrating.
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Oh, I was just saying we got a comment around seeing way too many changes and the congestion, I'm assuming meaning traffic, being frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, the city, the city's growing at a pace that I don't know that really is a result of the developers. It's really more a symptom of desire of people where they want to live. People want to live in an area that's safe, that's accessible to downtown, that's close to where they work. And the city's population growth is growing at a rate that, it doesn't, people complain that the developers are the ones, as to take Larry's words, wrecking the neighborhood. Developers are responding to the need for housing, and developers don't invest and build housing because nobody wants to live there. It's actually the opposite. It's because people want to live here that you have so much development. And I say this a lot, oftentimes people, people will say, why is this happening? Usually when developers want to invest in you, but that's a good thing. People are, or consider East Boston a good place to live. And that's why you have such a strong demand for housing. If you have all this demand for housing and no housing available, the reverse happens, and you end up with problems with, increased cost of housing because your supply is so limited. Karen, and again, I get your private message that I shouldn't be commenting on your neighborhood. I'm an attorney and I represent my client. I can comment on anything that they hire me to comment on.
All right, we have one last bit of feedback here from Patty saying it sets a bad precedent for the entire peninsula of East Boston. I believe we got some comments similar to that before about setting a precedent of, 4-story buildings in the neighborhood. But it looks like a lot of the feedback now is about the same as what we had earlier that's been addressed. If folks like, we can wrap this up. I can share the voting link. I can email it out as well as put it on Facebook and this chat. And we will be vetting voter eligibility, either if you're in a butter to the property or if you've attended 2 out of the last 3 meetings. If anyone doesn't meet that criteria, your vote will not count, and we're not going to be inspecting or sharing any information or the votes. It'll just be to make sure that that people are eligible. So I just posted that in the chat. And for anybody that perhaps had to leave early or missed the link, didn't catch it in the chat, I will put it on Facebook and send it out by email. We'll leave the voting open probably about till tomorrow morning or so, just to give people a moment in case that they left early or missed the link to get their votes in. So thank you again, Richard and Maureen and Treya, for presenting. And thank you everyone for hanging on to the call and staying around for this last presentation so that we could get the vote in.
And again, I apologize for the delay. I was on another meeting that ran longer than I expected, so my apologies.
It's okay. It was great to have Lorene present as well as Treya. They did an awesome job. So that link is in the chat. Again, I'll be sending it out via email. We'll wrap up voting tomorrow and I'll send out the results to everybody. So thank you so much for attending. Again, our next meeting is, let me see, I think it's February 16th, I believe. Yes. And we actually have Counselor Lydia Edwards coming, so it's going to be an exciting time, a little change of pace. All right. So everyone have a wonderful evening. And yes, we did get a question. There is only one property up for a vote tonight. I'll post that link again just before we end. All right. Thank you all. And oh, also the recording of this meeting will be posted on Facebook and YouTube, sent out via email. Okay. All right. Everyone have a wonderful evening. I will see you in February. Take care. Happy New Year.